Okay, so I always like to record a video like this so that you can see what I see behind the curtain and see what I'm monitoring while it comes to locking you into your interest rate. And so I wanted to give you a little insight on the market because I'm sure that you're aware that 2022 rates were on the incline throughout most of 2022, and it was all over the headlines. It's all anybody talked about, but nobody was explaining really what's going on in the bond market. And so I'm just going to give you a glimpse of what is going on, because what is most important is what's happening in the bond market on the day that I lock you in. And now that we're under contract, now is where we can actually lock you into a rate that you want to be at. So here is where we are today, just hovering around probably mid to low sixes for sure on a single family. And this is where we were exactly a year ago. And so you're going to see that these are called candlesticks, and these candlesticks were higher than they are today. So it's a little bit backwards than your normal graph. So when this line is high, it means that the price of the mortgage bond is high, which means there is a high demand, which means there is a lot of demand for those investors buying the mortgage bonds, which drags the rates down, and the rates are lower. Now, when you look back at where we are today, you'll see that we kind of take a nosedive throughout 2022. Our biggest dip in 2022, where we saw the highest rates, were October 17th, 2022, according to this. So if you see that, that was our lowest point in this graph, meaning that was the highest point in rates. And so as you can see, though, we have recovered nicely and we're back up and on the rise, and this is where we are today. But this is where what you're seeing all over the headlines, this is where we start to see inflation and the Fed's getting in front of it, is after our CPI inflation report that we had last week. So what the Feds are trying to do is they're trying to get in front of inflation by raising the overnight Fed rate, which is not the same as these mortgage rates, but the mortgage rates follow inflation. So if inflation's getting worse, the mortgage rates are getting worse. When inflation starts to get a little bit under control, the mortgage rates follow as well. So this is the variable, that we really can't control as a lender. And this is why when you go to lock in your interest rate, like I just said, how the bond market is performing is what matters most. So this is the bond market. So not expecting you to be a mortgage nerd after this. I just wanted to educate you on how your rates are proposed. And so now I'm going to show you a snippet of your rate board. And your rate board, until you're locked in, is updated every day. It's based off the bond market, which we just saw. So this rate board is based off of today's bond market. Now, I didn't lock you in, so we are still what we consider floating. And this is how I shop for your rate. This is what I see. And yeah, you could go as low as 4.25 and almost as high as 8%. And usually what we see in the online advertisements from, the Wells Fargos, the Chase, all those online banks, is they'll have really big, bold font with a really attractive rate. Let's say it's 5.5%. And that is marketing at its finest. It's a very attractive number. And then below it is a paragraph of a bunch of fine print. And what you're going to see in the column next to this 5.5% right here is at 11,743. So that is what this rate would cost you, which is what they don't show you. They're just advertising the rate. And then if you read the fine print, you would see that that rate's actually costing you about 11,000. And what this column is right here, the closing costs, these are the discount points. You'll see that discount, rebate, and then the number in dollar signs of these rates for today's rate sheet. And it's a one-time cost upfront at closing. So yes, you could you could lock yourself into 5.5%, but you're going to pay probably about 11,000. And I show you this because I think it's important. If you absolutely wanted to do that, I would advise against it. And for the reason being, let's find another way to get you there. Maybe we can negotiate something with the sellers to maybe help them, have them help you with that rate. There's tons of ways we could spin this, but I'm showing you this so that you can kind of see for yourself what all of this entails and what it looks like. And I will run several interest rate options and we will compare them side by side, so that you can make a decision on what rate that you're going to want to be in.